Hello, Team Absolution fans. Vanguard has seen a lot of metas in its day, but what decks were the best? Let's talk about it. Hello, Team Absolution fans. First and foremost, I am joined with the Phantom Nate, finally out of the shadows, and the Express, finally able to get some form of transportation this evening. As you can tell, what?
Train.
Yeah,
train.
we passed it. First things first, welcome to the new filming space, kind of.
We're behind camera again.
This is where we're going to be doing like conversational videos. If we do a rant, we'll probably do it from behind here. And I mean, we don't do that many rants, though, do we?
No, we're not angry.
I don't think we've ever done a rant.
No,
Not once. Not even that one time. No. All right. So, aside from that, we hope.
Chicks are gonna be live.
Yeah, Damn Chicks are gonna be live.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. So
Damn Chicks are gonna be live.
So this is the new conversational piece. It's a bar, which the best conversations
No,
happen. Next on the list. So, as you probably clicked on this video, we're here to talk about the best decks. So we're talking tier 0 decks in their respective metas.
They're all across time and space.
Since the beginning of Vanguard. So first question to answer is, Nate, what is a tier 0 deck?
a tier 0 deck to me is a deck that not only tops consistently, it tops a lot, but it's the deck that defines what that meta is. It doesn't just take up the top spots, it influences what the other top spots are as well.
That's completely fair.
Yeah.
You got anything to add there?
No, that sounds pretty straightforward and legit.
I'm just going to add one thing as well. In a lot of cases, tier 0 decks either get the ban hammer in some form, or they've abused a mechanic in a very a mechanic in Vanguard that's like usually not exploited, which we can go in on the examples. So these top 5 or these 5 most tier 0 decks
In no particular order.
In no particular order. Let me make that clear, comments. No particular order. I'll leave the ordering to you guys. In the respective meta. So we're putting them against the decks of their age. Obviously, some of these decks could not stand on their same legs today.
Of course.
Some of that because of ban lists and
just because the meta evolved.
And just because the game became more powerful. Some of these decks are still powerful decks today. Let's start with the first one, and one of my favorite decks of all time, CBD, Chaos Breaker Dragon. Let's first discuss what made it tier 0. Well,
Palladium.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know, the Palladium ruling. Do you remember the Palladium ruling?
More or less.
Palladium ruling. There was a great
while.
one called Palladium that said when a card was unlocked, you could put it in the soul.
Put Palladium in the soul.
Put Palladium in the soul, and it would remain locked.
Yeah, flip back.
Right. And CBD's skill, as some of you may know, is when Limit Break 4, when an opponent's unit's unlocked, you can Soul Blast 1 to retire it and draw a card. Well, because of the way these two cards interacted, you were basically allowed to keep his dude locked and draw a card.
Yep.
So you were drawing and controlling simultaneously.
Yep, because their timings were the same. So you just do Palladium first, and then...
Yeah, you had to do Palladium first. And then, so this was stupid.
It was also...
You don't say.
It was... There was only one deck that could even challenge its power. Nate played that deck.
Yeah, that was fun.
There was only really one deck that could even, like, touch it.
Yeah. Also, this was during the time when reverse units were popular.
That was the second thing that made this deck incredibly tier 0 at the time. And that's because and this goes to what you're saying, it eliminated almost any other reverse deck from becoming a top spot.
And if you weren't playing a reverse deck, it was either Descendant or Agent Form.
Yeah. Its best challenger did not play a reverse deck and had to retire its own units just to stay ahead in that matchup.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah, the thing is, Revengers, now granted they still did, good players didn't do this, but like, a Revenger player could not commit to the board until he was ready to win.
Yeah.
He was like, no, my hand will stay here, I will not touch the board. It's just one of those instances where the entire game was around reverse, which
and
the reason Limit Break, and the reason I'm explaining this is because Vanguard has seen an influx of new players since G, so like the concept of reverse is a weird thing. So reverse was like
Reverse was a weird
units
thing.
were units in other clans that could lock their own dudes
And get skills.
It was like another way of paying a cost. The cost would be cheaper from a counterblast perspective.
Yeah.
But instead, you would be locking one of your own dudes
Or two.
or two in turn. Saber was so overpriced. Because
Saber was so overpriced.
I
I think who's
he was lock 2.
Yeah.
And CB1.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like CB2.
But the
lock 2.
lock 2 was just it might have been there's no way it was CB2 lock 2. If it was
I don't
CB2 lock
remember.
2, I'm done.
I don't remember. It's been a long time.
So here was the problem with that general mechanic. Okay, locked units stay locked until the end of your turn, until the end of the player's turn. So if you locked your own dudes to pay for skills, CBD was just like, great, you saved me the trouble.
You saved me resources. Thanks, friend.
Him and Betty still had a Palladium on the board.
I don't miss that time at all.
It was not a great time.
I love that deck so much I built it in 24 hours after set release.
After set release, we bought 3 boxes and we fixed the deck.
We bought 4, I think. 4 boxes. But we only ended up with 3 CBDs. I forget how we got the 4th one.
Did we get it when we were there?
That's possible. No, I think we were missing a colony maker.
You were missing a colony maker.
We were missing a colony maker. So,
Busted cards.
on to deck number 2.
Busted cards in their time.
In this list. I'm going to go in order of which, the order I think the decks were released.
Okay.
I think. Let's talk ripples.
Okay.
Ripples were... So there was this thing in Vanguard, as we saw, the advent of, well, I'll just get around the whole concept of power creep in terms of grade 3s and things like that.
And striding.
Striding by only running grade 1s and grade 2s. You see? Using the old noodle.
Granted, Ripples did play grade 3s, but you were most likely dead before they ever decided to ride it.
That's true. So, what made this deck dumb? Bryce?
Odysseus and Turtle combo.
Oh, Lord.
God, I hate that turtle. I'll go to bed hating that turtle for the rest of my life. Anything else that made this deck dumb?
Braxton was going to add something real quick.
Just to continue on. Also, the ride, though, it was the Odysseus the Turtle, and the fact that it was a ride chain with an on-hit grade 2 Vanguard skill. That was 10k base.
Also, let's not forget that it was on ride, and you tucked the other dude out.
Yeah.
So you always had a column.
Yeah.
You always had a swinger.
Yeah.
And he got power too.
I don't know if he got power, but I know he got power if your Vanguard grade 2 10k hit, because it stood a dude and gave him power, I think.
It was one or the other. But
Yeah.
the point is, you were making lines, and your opponent couldn't stride. And this was a time where decks were either GB or they weren't.
Yeah.
I mean, they couldn't Legion either. So
That's
really,
true.
they had been locked out of 2 years worth of mechanics.
That's
if
right.
you were not running a limit break deck,
We're playing Black Boy in Metal
Yeah.
Works.
you were not in a good place. You were sitting there pretty vanilla for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
A very, very long time.
Basically until you died.
Which is what happened in
It's
Worlds.
true.
Yeah.
I mean, and to remember, so
Yeah, it's when it hits, if you have a card if you have the grade 1 in Soul, you choose Aquaforce for rear guard, stand it, and it gets +3.
there we go. So,
So
Dumb cards are dumb.
and it was a 10k base.
yeah, and it was a 10k
It was a 10k base.
which means other decks could counter rush it.
Yes.
Which also made it very difficult because a lot of decks that are like grade 2 rush, those are like, I'll counter rush it, and they're like, nah, B. See this 10k? 10k says no.
Mm-hmm.
It was dumb.
Yeah.
And it survived and it won Worlds.
Yep.
So after it won Worlds
It won Worlds on both sides.
on both sides, and then Bushi said, cut it out, put Odysseus
No,
in
no.
2,
Yep.
and that was the end of that. Well, it wasn't the end of that deck, but it was the definitely severely
Hurt it.
to the point where we never saw it in high competitive play. I think when Ryan was in the upper tables at his NAP performance where he topped
In ARG.
in
Yeah.
ARG, he
saw
ripples, which is like super smart. It was like the freest of wins for him.
Thanks,
I mean,
Kyber. Thanks,
Ripples
Kyber.
also did contribute to Bushy Road having to design a card in Seabreeze
Seabreeze,
that
I was
says
just
you
thinking that.
could not do this.
Yeah.
What reason?
So they got a band and a card design just to counter them
Yes.
after the ban.
Technically, they got 2 cards.
Yeah, because
Because
Twitter
Twitter
came
Run,
out front.
Yeah.
Twitter Run came out first. So like, this is what we're talking about tier 0. That they in turn, and if we want to take it back to Link Joker, while Link Joker never got banned,
They made Ezel scissors.
They made no, but not only did they make Ezel scissors, they made Monarch Alfred.
Yeah.
And they made another Royal Paladin unit that let you unlock a dude. They made another unit.
They
made
unlock units for all clans.
For all clans. It was like CB1 unlock a dude or something. So like, let's see. That's the signals of it where Breach has to design their way out of a bad situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's 2. That's Ripples.
Yeah.
Number 3, Sanctuary Guard Dragon.
Oh,
Regally, not the original. The original was not tier 0.
Darn.
The original was in tier 1 or tier 2, maybe tier 3.
You were thankful you bought that Daigo deck, though.
I don't know where I got the other 3 though.
You traded.
I gave you one.
Yeah.
Because I had one of the
Because
Daigo
you had
decks.
one, I had one, I gave it to you for some reason.
And Nate had one.
And then you got the
See,
fourth
the
somehow.
somewhere.
We just buy Daigo decks in our free time.
Yep.
I still have that box.
I do too.
Hey. So
That deck is still alive today.
Yeah, there we go.
I think that's. I mean, look. I think if you've watched our channel, which I hope you are, in any significant portion,
For 2 years.
we have talked about this deck in length, and I'm not gonna spend a lot of time talking about it, except to say that yes, the deck is not as powerful as it used to be. Debatably, people can debate one way or the other on that, but it definitely wasn't. It's not tier 0 anymore as it was when it launched. But here's all I'm gonna say: copy and paste Ripples, add it to Vanguard, except it finishes faster.
Yeah.
I mean, Vanguard also impacted the game in terms of rulings, because when you began, you ran the Jewel Knight Sword Me engine.
Yeah.
What did Bushiroad have to do with that?
They had to get rid of
I
that.
completely forgot about
They
that.
had
Yeah.
to once again design their
They
way out of
just
Sword Me.
replaced it. So, yeah.
Like this deck is so freaking resilient. No matter how many times the meta changes, it just adapted. It's the apex predator.
I don't know about. I think it's finally hitting its final legs. I think it's finally dying. I think the meteor is going down on the dinosaur that is Vanguard. But the deck has. I cannot in my mind think of another deck.
It won 2 nats.
2 nats in ARG.
Yeah.
So I cannot think of another deck that has topped. Or not that has topped. I'm sorry. Another deck that has been resilient for 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we can argue that the deck has changed, but at the end of the day, it's dropping regularly and winning.
Yeah.
The composition of what it takes to get there might have changed, but the core mechanic, you're still dropping regularly, you're still winning.
Wrigley's in the game. Wrigley's so much in there. It's going down.
That's my assessment there. So next is
Yeah, we already beat the order thing when you went with Vanguard, so we're just gonna say Shadows now.
oh dang it, how about Shadows. But this is Shadows
After Legend deck.
after Legend deck. So after Legend deck,
Revenge or Diablo.
Revenge or Diablo. This deck was abusive because it could kill you. I'm trying to think of the way that they designed their way out of this.
They did. They just power creeped it out.
Yeah, this is the only deck on the list that was like tier 0, and but it wasn't really designed out.
And just to put some this is like from everything we're saying is from like our TCG perspective. Like when after the Legend deck dropped and Revenge Diablos were a thing, it topped like 80%.
Everywhere.
Yes, it had
Everywhere.
80% tops. Like the decks that were being played were Revengers, Vanguard in small amounts because Revengers could actually just fight Vanguard,
Yeah.
and decks that could beat Shadows.
Sort of Gear Chronicle with what's his next stage,
Yeah.
but really it was called Shadows Can Do It Better. So why are you bothering?
So this goes back to Nate's point about his
Those days.
definition of tier 0 decks. And he said it's not only a deck that defines its tops, but what other will top. In time of Shadows being tier 0, Revenge or Diablo, if your deck involved you retiring your own dudes or your dudes not being on your board at the end of your turn, you were dead.
Yeah.
I mean, if you were playing, if this meta for some reason you were playing like Ancient Dragons, because G-Stride
Yeah.
Tachi's hadn't come out yet.
Right.
If you're playing Ancient Dragons and you were sacking your own dudes, you were done. If you're playing Grand Blue and your dudes were dead at the end of the turn, you were done. If you were playing Bermudas and you were bouncing your dudes and not putting them back, you were done. If you didn't have 3 dudes at the end of your turn that could
Minimum.
consistently stay there,
Mm-hmm.
3 minimum, but really a full board because he's going to kill 1 or 2 of
Yeah.
them.
with one of his 8 blaster darks in the deck.
I mean, there was also a thing where you were forcing players to play suboptimally, because even if they couldn't make a full board, you would see them play the triggers just because they knew it could happen.
Yeah.
He could have the blaster darts in hand to kill me.
And then there were the times that they could have had the full board and it just didn't matter anyway. They still got unblockable Diablo.
Also, the fact that Diablo's skill was so stern.
Yeah.
It was literally you had to retire 2 dudes.
Yeah.
And you couldn't retire resist dudes, you couldn't retire stamp sea otter, you had to kill 2 dudes.
And like what made it even like so ridiculously strong, you didn't even have to do the retire date once. You could have just paid the cost, and 10k and a crit was enough back then.
Well, more importantly than 10k was a crit, it was without question the easiest 10k in a crit.
Just CB1.
It was CB1 10k in a crit. Persona Flip.
Your Persona Flip.
The only other one that's close was the Royal one.
Yeah.
But you needed
same
same
blow.
blow. But you needed dudes on board.
You need 2 dudes and the
You needed 2
Persona
dudes.
Flip.
Granted, in that deck it wasn't bad, but and you needed another one face up.
Yeah, it was Persona Flip.
No. You needed up to 2 G. You needed 2 face up.
Yeah,
the
the GB2.
Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's Diablo.
So it was Diablo. Yeah. But I mean, I'd rather take the CB1 get a crit.
Yeah,
to be
exactly.
honest.
Than
And the
dudes,
power.
man. Yeah.
I mean, I at least need 4 dudes to equal that, to overcome that power.
Exactly.
And get the crit.
It was good. That's bottom line.
And
It
like-
was good.
And like the deck was just in that time period because everything was so slow. It was just so much faster. Like by grade 2, I could ride grade 2, play Blast of Dark Abyss, and kill your starter. So by the time I had grade 2, I had 2 attacks on board, and you were down a card.
It had the speed to kill decks in the way Vanguard could kill decks. It also
But
had
Vanguard was around then.
it also had durability to during the Vanguard match. It could just
Because
outlast them.
Yeah,
also,
because
you
of,
had the ultimate tool shed.
Yeah.
Because you had Aura Geyser, you
That
had
word.
Diablo.
We had a Judge Battle into double
Oh,
Swordbreaker.
that was so fun.
You had like utility out
and
the
we had the
wazoo.
Restander.
And you that's what you had the Restander, you had Draw Engine, 2 different variants. Because you had Swordbreaker and you had Aura Geyser in case if you ran certain variants, you had damage inducing. You
Yes.
had anything you needed at the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
You had your own
Just
version
all-
of Beanon with mana.
Yeah.
Like you had anything you needed.
Yeah, like
You had Unflip with the fucking stupid double door combo.
I really missed
There
those
was
days.
Sex still invokes rage at me.
like you could literally build that deck however you wanted, and all of them would work. If you wanted your backup to be Blaster Dark Diablo, it would work. If you wanted to run mana or a matcha, it would work.
What's also really dope about the deck too, and I'll say this one last time before we go. Like, it's one line. It had several lines, but its ending line was always the same. It was like, here's how this like. I think about it because I think about Ren, and that's why I'm laughing right now. Like, his winning image never changed with that deck. It was, you're gonna die when you have no dudes on board and I hit you with 2 crits and you can't guard. That's how this game is gonna end.
Well, no, you
It's
can
kind of
also-
like he looks at you like Evil Aichi did with the young Pegasus, and it's like, I'm going to beat you with this guy. Like, he could literally point you with the opposite. I'm going to beat you with this guy.
Yeah, like you get killed with that, or just killed with Abyss on the restand. Like it was just. And there were so many ways to do it in one build.
It was also one of the last standing Legion decks. Well, the second to last.
Yeah,
Nick Saber still survived.
It was good. It was good.
It was darn good. It was so good, people had to make decks just to beat it good.
That deck got
Even
so
that-
expensive.
Even then, like 50-50
Just to
success rate.
just to speak to that deck's power as far as Bushi, instead of designing their way out of it, decided to get some money off of it and reprinted Abyss as a full art.
Yeah.
The only Legion to get that treatment.
Yeah.
The only Legion to get that treatment. It is both a Legion rare and an SGR.
Yes, it is. And how did
Nice.
Bushi work their way out of this one? They just power creeped it out of
Yeah.
the game. Straight up. Because this is right. The deck stopped being played when Alpha Force got their support.
Yep.
And Blue Marshals was also Chaos Universe came out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then because Shadows got knocked out, Sengar was just like, it's my
Yeah.
time.
It's like, how did you get rid of Shadows? Look at the meta today. That's how they got rid of it.
Well, got rid of that Shadows.
Got rid of that.
Send them
Shadows.
into Wizards, and now we're they built Hogwarts, and now we're having a good old time.
Hogwarts and Owls. Oh my god, they did.
I told you they built-
Luard is a Harry Potter deck.
Wizard Boys. Okay. Number 5 and the final deck on the list is Seven Seas Rush.
Yes. Yes.
Also a deck that top nats. Also a deck that provoked Bushiroad's hand twice.
Wasn't it a mirror
Now
match?
we could go back and forth on. This is literally a chicken. Wait, a mirror match. What was a mirror match?
I think Nats was
The
2
Nats
7
was-
Cs.
No, it wasn't. It was
wasn't?
Seven Seas versus Mason Clark.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Seven
I'm
Seas
talking
was-
about like Worlds,
Nats.
like it topped Worlds.
Oh,
That's
Worlds.
what-
Worlds was a mirror match. Seven
Yeah.
Seas versus Seven Seas.
Yeah.
Seven Seas won.
You're talking about Continentals.
I'm talking
ARG
ARG Nats.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Too many turns.
And I won that, too.
and it won that too because it played against Gear Chronicle. It's natural counter. Now this is what
That's
I
why
wanna
they
talk-
made that deck.
This is what I want to talk about. Now we could sit here and talk and debate of what came first, the chicken or the egg. Did Gear Chronicle make 7 C's the tier 0 deck, or did 7 C was Gear Chronicle the tier 0 deck and invited the counter that was 7 C's? But let's answer the question here and now. One of these two decks topped both. One of these decks did not. We've got first and second and first. Gear Chronicle has 1 second. I think we know the numbers. If we go by the hard numbers, 7 C's was the ultimate meta call, but it also was a deck of it itself. It was the one. It was the first.
Not the first.
No, let me finish.
Okay.
It was the first Grade 1 Rush deck that could sustain itself across the board.
Yes.
Not only against Gear, because the problem with Grade 1 Rush decks is in a lot of cases, if you run into a Limit Break deck, or if you run into
Any deck with any kind of speed.
with a certain level of speed that can, or like even Vanguard to a certain extent, because it'll beat you at the
Yeah.
Grade 1 game with the Grade 2 Rush game, which is naturally stronger. But this deck was able to overcome it all.
Yes. This deck featured a grade 1 and grade 2.
I'm gonna leave it to you guys because I talked enough about 7 Seas Rush. Deck's good. Deck's real good.
I mean, like, there's nothing else like to say. They had to hit. What was it? They had to hit Night Runner. They had to hit Night Runner.
And then they had to hit the other dude too.
Yeah, the new one.
The new list restriction.
Oh,
The
it was
Japanese has another one.
Yeah.
Night Scrow, I think.
something like that.
And it's
Nice
still
pro.
topping.
Yeah, like we had to. This deck is so good. We had to change our decks to beat this deck.
It was a deck that changed the way the composition of the decks that topped around it, like Nate suggested. Because now, like, the idea of running 10Ks became almost standard in the OCG for sure, and
Yes.
it became the leak in the TCG.
Mm-hmm.
Then, not only did that happen, but also to adjust, we started seeing the text of the limit break units.
Yes. Like
Um,
in OCG, they were running reverse Cocytus in their Night Rose
Please
builds.
no.
Because they could keep milling until they hit Twitter Run and then kill them.
Vanquisher was running
Keith ran Armor Break.
Armor Break.
Keith ran Armor Break. Everyone, other people tried Composure Dragon, the
Compo-
12K base.
Yeah. People were doing everything they could think of to put this deck to sleep.
Except run Twitter Run.
So was Bushiroad trying to figure out a way to put this. Well, the thing is, like, Twitter Run is such a compromise.
yeah. We had this debate. But
Yeah. You got anything to say?
I mean, it took what Ripples did, and it did it later after more people had adjusted to a period when they could not counter with early decks. Like, even when Ripples were around, you had some people sticking to their Limit Break decks. You know,
Right.
whatever. This was 4 years after Limit Break, right? 4-ish years?
Three or four.
3 or
I
4
think
years
three.
after
I'm not
Limit
keeping
Break.
count.
You know,
Because Vanguard's only been out for 5. So.
people weren't running that. They weren't even running Legions for the most part. So
Right.
it just took advantage of what Ripples were already taking advantage of before them.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
But
Bad
taking it to
times
the
for
next
us all.
stage.
Yeah.
Because Seabreeze can't do anything
Yeah.
about that.
See,
They went around the go around.
They went around the go around.
and it went around the biggest go around that Grade 1. A lot of other Grade 1 Rush decks have is like, I'll just swing introduce and kill them, and he's like, well, I'll just bring them back.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, friend.
Like, killing his dudes wasn't enough. You had to kill him. With other Grade 1 Rush decks, if you kill the dudes, they'll run out of dudes.
Yeah.
They might run out of dudes.
Yeah.
You kill these guys' dudes, he'll just call back more dudes.
From where you put them. Monster Reborn never looked so good.
So, those, in our opinion, are the top 5 decks of tier 0 levels.
Across time and space.
Across time and space. But in no particular order. And let us know down in the comments what you guys think were the most tier 0 decks in their respective metas. And drop it down in the comments below. Make sure to wait for more videos from Team Absolution. And this is Nate, Braxton, and myself signing off. Peace.
Fire shirts.